whenever people do that at karaoke, I'm like, nope. You should never, don't even poke that with a stick, because whenever everyone wants to do the...
You can?
Yeah, that bit. And then
yeah, try like 3 octaves above that.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
Hoe definieer je een artiest? Hoe definieer je een band bestaande uit meerdere personen als je maar 5 tracks hebt? Dat is een uitdaging, maar we gaan het proberen met CHVRCHES.
Hello.
Lauren, Iain, Martin, thank you so much for being here.
It's our pleasure.
Let's get started then. Track number 1. And if anyone has a personal story, just feel free to grab the mic and tell it.
Well, I can start it by probably saying Plainsong by The Cure. I know this is one that would come up loads in the studio between Iain and I right at the very beginning when we're talking about it on a production level. The way a band like that was able to use strings and kind of with a whole new kind of perspective. You know, they were a band, they were a goth band, they were pretty much a punk band before it, a post-punk band. But that introduction, so expansive, that moment, first track on the album, like to come out like that was the greatest show of confidence and swagger that you could imagine, and I'm still influenced by that even now.
Is The Cure, even beyond this particular song, something that you all agree on wow? Wow level?
Massively so. They're just, they're one of the most important bands of our time, you know? I think I don't need to say any more than that. They're just, I'm influenced by them in every conceivable way.
One song I was thinking about when we were talking about this was Stay by Shakespears' sister, which I know is probably more pop than a lot of the other stuff we'll talk about. But I think for me, I have a memory of seeing that video on TV and just being like really like fascinated but creeped out by it. The vocals on it are insane, and I like that kind of idea of gothic pop, and that it doesn't necessarily have to be one thing or the other. And I think that's something that we've kind of adopted in how we do things. And I like that we don't fit into one box or the other. It's not an indie rock band, but it's not a pop band. It's kind of straddling the line between both. And I think the sensibility of something like that is something that we hold quite dear.
You know, that was really powerful imagery for me as well when I was a youngster. It's one of the kind of earliest music video memories that I have. It's just, even now, it still stands out.
And then the high vocals, like the whistle vocals are insane. Like the vocal range required for that song. And it's so expressive, and then it's like heavy gothic. And then like whenever people do that at karaoke, I'm like, nope. You should never, don't even poke that with a stick. Because whenever everyone wants to do the...
You can?
Yeah, that bit. And
try like 3 octaves above that.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
I've been trying to write something like that for years, never quite got there. It's not an easy thing to do, right? The kind of call and response, like verses.
It's 2 different songs, really, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it is, yeah.
But, I wanted to pick a song by Depeche Mode, who are one of my favourite bands. And it's a band that I kind of grew up with, but never really fell in love with until a few years ago when we played a few shows with them in Europe. We played 4 shows with them in Europe, and getting to watch them over those 4 nights, it really made me fall in love with the band and properly research their back catalogue. And they've been a massive influence on what we do. So it's another one of these kind of shared common points between the 3 of us, you know. And I think they had a creative period from sort of Black Celebration to like Songs of Faith and Devotion, where I think they made some of the greatest music of that type in history, in my opinion. The song that I want to choose is the title track from the album Black Celebration. I think it was one of the first albums where Alan Wilder and Flood and the band really sort of gelled as a unit, and also with the sort of early sampling technology, and combined with the songwriting and just becoming the band that they were about to be. I think it's a really elemental stage in the development of the band, and I love it.
Take me in your arms, forgetting all you couldn't do. Black celebration, black celebration, black celebration.
They don't get anywhere near as much respect, certainly in their home country, as they should.
No?
But no, not at all.
What's the sentiment towards Depeche Mode then?
I think there was a point in time where the press kind of turned against them and thought their music was like overly macho and like passé, whereas in Europe, in America, they were kind of hailed as gods, you know.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised to hear this.
Yeah,
I didn't know
absolutely.
that.
The British press loved Britpop from start to finish and still do. I'm like, that was never too masculine. That was never
Listen to
too
the press
laddie.
too much.
And the older work with Vince Clarke, really making this pop-like sound. And when he left, obviously the band turned more dark, so to speak. Is that something that inspires you as well?
I think both of those worlds inspire us, because I think we as a band fleet between those two things quite a lot, and indeed try to straddle that line, having those big pop hooks, but also having a core that's much darker and more introspective.
It'd be just as likely to make an Erasure record, I would say.
Yeah?
Yeah, sure.
I love Erasure too.
I love Erasure.
Like that. Track number 4.
I think if it's not too big-headed to choose one of your own songs, I think using that as a way of talking about the genre straddling could be good.
And who you are as a band.
Yeah, and I think Bury is an interesting example of how technically the music we make is pop, but is rooted in rock, because there's basically a massive guitar riff in it. It's just played on synths instead of guitars. So the bit that's like the dun 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 dun, like if you took that and put it on guitar, people would be like, oh, it's a rock
We
band.
did actually try that in the studio.
It sounded a
Well, there
little
was
bit.
guitars in it. It was a wee bit new metal.
Yeah.
So you got rid of them.
Bury it and rise above. Bury it and rise above you. Bury it, bury it, bury it and rise above. We bury it, bury it, bury it and rise above.
But I don't know, I think it's like interesting for us to still like that. I don't know, our background is rooted in rock bands and playing rock bands, listening to rock bands. So I think it's interesting for us to be inspired by all those things, but just put them in a different context in terms of things like that or the live show. Like I don't really look at our show and think that it's a pop band live show. I think it's an indie rock band using synthesizers instead of guitars.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. It's certainly what we tried to do, for sure.
There's more headbanging than there would be in a conventional pop show.
Yeah, that Bury It has there's a kind of classic facet of our writing where we'll try and write 2 choruses instead of 1. And then one of them kind of ultimately gets demoted to pre-chorus after a while. And Bury It is a perfect example of that. So listen out for what I'm talking about.
Songwriting techniques?
It is, yeah. It's one of the ones, why have 1 chorus when you can have 2? Double the hooks,
Like it.
half price hooks.
Which is your 5th final essential track?
I guess since it's come up, and I'm probably quite emotional about Prince still at this point in time, I would say that was probably the area or the artist upon which we agree the most. Let's do When Doves Cry. That to me, actually, writing wise, that is absolutely unbelievable. There's no bass in that song for the most part. You can hear he creates harmony with texture and with sounds and effects without actually committing to the bass notes. It is just incredible.
Baby, you're just like my mother. She's never satisfied. Why do we scream at each other? This is what it sounds like when the doves cry.
has the effect as well of kind of building tension because there isn't that grounding force of having a bass nailing down the root notes. So it feels kind of like it's up in the air and it could go anywhere, and it has that danger about it. Genius.
Were you ever able to see Prince perform live?
Yeah, one
You
time.
guys did, yeah. I wasn't. I think you guys saw him in Glasgow, but I was not there, so I don't go.
It was awesome.
Yeah, I saw him once, and I'm so thankful
I know.
that we were able to see him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that concludes our session, guys.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Great talk about great
was fun.
songs. And I get to play Shakespeare's sister again. Who would have thought?
Enjoy.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thanks for inviting me. Cheers.